Have you ever sent that perfect text, only to stare at your phone obsessively as the seconds tick by, feeling a physical weight settle in your chest? When the reply doesn't come immediately, your brain doesn't go to sleep. It flips the switch into crisis mode, spiraling through worst-case scenarios. You replay your last words like a glitching movie, terrified you've done something to ruin the moment. This heavy knot in your stomach isn't just bad vibes. Psychologists call this hypervigilance, found in anxious attachment. Your nervous system is treating a delayed message like a threat to your survival, scanning for danger in a perfectly safe room. It is the misery of interpreting silence as a sudden earthquake when it was just a pause. When you are driven to overthink every text, you are actually trapped in a cycle of emotional hyperventilation. But understanding why your brain does this is the first step towards finding your peace. Remember falling for someone in high school? That desperate, racing need to be physically near them to feel at all safe? That wasn't just dramatic love. It was your attachment style kicking into high gear. Psychologist John Bowlby discovered early on that human connection is biological survival, and that wiring sticks with us into adulthood. Now, if you wrestle with anxious attachment, your brain isn't just being clingy, it is running a perpetual crisis simulation. Think of your brain like a hypersensitive alarm system. Because of past experiences or early childhood environments, the threshold for detecting abandonment is razor thin. When a partner pulls back, your amygdala doesn't just notice the distance. It interprets it as an immediate threat, flooding your system with cortisol and adrenaline. You crave constant validation and proximity, not because you lack independence, but because your internal safety checks remain empty. Your biology is screaming at you to fill that gap with their attention. Otherwise, the panic sets in. It's a survival loop designed to keep you tethered to a safe haven, but right now it feels like a trap. That little jolt in your chest when your phone buzzes isn't just excitement. It's a powerful chemical gamble. Your brain is essentially a dopamine-seeking lab, constantly scanning the horizon for a reward tap. When you spot that little read notification, your brain floods with a surge of anticipation. The uncertainty creates a feedback loop similar to a slot machine. Your brain lights up with a potential chemical win before you've even seen the words, keeping you hooked on the thrill of interaction. But contrast that with a sudden phone ringing. That's not a treat. That's a demand on your primal amygdala. There's no script, no filter, and no reward buffer. It triggers raw stress and a racing heart because there is zero control. We've accidentally designed our lives around chasing this digital high, addicted to the chemical drop of a new message, while dismissing the anxiety-inducing ring as just another demand we have to answer. That specific moment when you see that message has been read, and then radio silence. Your thumb hovers over the screen, you stop breathing, and suddenly you are just waiting for a reply. You are trying to solve a labyrinthine crime scene. You start analyzing every use of the letter K versus typing OK, convinced that a short text means you're annoying, boring, or worse, that they've already found someone cooler while you were just double-checking your punctuation. You've turned into a psychic mind reader, and honestly, it's a terrible career path, because the script you scribble down based on silence is always a tragedy. Psychologically, this is classic catastrophe thinking. Your brain processes a pause as if it were an explosion, screaming, "Danger," from the back seat while your logical brain has already parked and gone home. You are listening to the existential noise of your own anxiety, masquerading as objective truth about their lack of interest. Stop trying to diagnose pause as punishment, because usually they're just navigating their day, not plotting your demise. Imagine your brain operates like an overactive security system that's decided to adopt a zero-tolerance policy. You send a text, and when the 20-minute mark hits, your internal alarm starts wailing. You instantly jump to the conclusion that they are deliberately ignoring you, right? But let's look at the math. You assume they are thinking about you 24/7, but mostly they are just sleeping, eating, or dealing with a rude boss. Statistically, it is incredibly unlikely that they are plotting how to end things with you, simply because you didn't get an immediate reply. We tend to catastrophize silence, assuming that no news is bad news. Psychologically, this is called filtering. You take a single data point and turn it into a lifetime of rejection. When you think about it like a game of telephone, You're blowing a single text up into a full-blown argument that isn't happening yet. Instead of seeing that silence as proof of rejection, treat it like a dryer notification beep. They are busy, they'll get back to it eventually. Don't let your anxiety rewrite their schedule because you're afraid they don't care. Picture your attention as a glass marble you're trying to hold still, but every time your swipe light illuminates the room, it rolls away from you. That is the exhausting trap of anxious attachment. To us, silence is not peace, it's a vacuum for panic. To break the loop, we must master the three-bucket rule. Imagine your life is divided into three distinct rooms. First, the work and sleep room. It is your sanctuary, a place where you grind without interruption. And crucially, it's not a place for relationship anxiety. Instead of wandering into the relationship room to obsess over timestamps and missed calls, you must slam the door on that specific grind set. Force yourself to physically enter the work bedroom bucket. Read a book, work out, or hit the sheets. When you treat your attention as a scarce resource, you must guard. You stop chasing your own reflection in the phone screen. The moment you step away from the panic, you stop being a hostage to the notification bell. That gut punch on your phone screen feels less like a notification and more like a bomb dropping, specifically when your anxious attachment tendencies hijack your logic. You stare at a blank screen, desperately rewinding the narrative to find hidden meanings, trapped in a psychological chokehold where silence feels like war. To snap out of it immediately, use the high-focus pause, force yourself to wait 15 minutes before responding to any doubts. Treat the compulsion to double text as a glitch, not a command. You aren't avoiding them, you're gathering your strategic mental clarity. Next, flip the narrative by visualizing the absolute worst-case scenario with brutal clarity. Imagine the silence is permanent, that they've ghosted you, or that they simply haven't read the text yet. Ask yourself with raw honesty, if this person never replies, will my life collapse? When you strip away the dramatic flair your ego creates, you'll realize that you were built to survive rejection. Anxiety is just a liar trying to keep you in the loop. Stop turning a random pause into a catastrophe. Imagine your self-worth is a garden, and right now, that love plant only grows sunlight. When someone sends a ding, that is a bankrupt way to live. To reach secure attachment, you have to become your own sun. Stop parasitically relying on someone else to validate your existence, because that value isn't a tavern menu that disappears when they swipe left. Think of a pilot during a storm. The plane shakes violently, but the pilot trusts the instruments, focusing on the horizon rather than the panic floating outside. You have to stop begging the ocean for calmness and realize that the turbulence is just weather, not a reflection of who you are. When the adrenaline spikes, instead of firing off a defensive text, communicate your needs like a steady captain. Say, "I've missed you," instead of, "Why are you ignoring me?" This shifts the dynamic from a chaotic tug-of-war to a synchronized partnership. You can't control the weather, but you can build a hull strong enough to weather the storm. So stop rowing in circles and find out why waiting actually destroys attraction. You know that sinking sensation in your stomach when you check the time and realize it's been 20 minutes of staring at a screen? That tightness is the anxious brain demanding digital snacks. But here's the thing. When you obsess over a text, you enter a state of hyper-focus that acts like a tunnel vision. Your world fundamentally shrinks until the phone becomes your only reality. Psychologically, this is essentially an amygdala hijack, leaving no room for the logical part of your brain to speak up. That's why having a lifestyle outside the phone isn't just a pastime. It acts as a heavy-duty buffer against that panic. Whether it's gaming, painting, or hiking, engaging in a genuine hobby rebuilds your dopamine baseline and proves to your internal alarm system that your worth isn't tethered to the screen. By cooling off, you aren't escaping the text. You are restoring your perspective so you can see the relationship clearly. Now that you've got your life back, let's talk about exactly how to handle that text. Because staying calm starts with knowing who you are. That sinking sensation in your stomach when your phone stays dark isn't just an emotional reaction. It's a physiological reality rooted in attachment theory, where your autonomic nervous system frantically searches for a safety signal that just isn't there because your secure base is wavering. If you constantly feel like you're walking a tightrope, terrified that one wrong step will make a valued partner disappear, Realize that you are investing in a dynamic that actively drains your vitality. You don't need to fight for someone's attention, decode cryptic messages, or shrink yourself to fit into their disconnected world, because a truly secure partner understands that true intimacy isn't a game of tag where you are always the one being left it. You deserve to be with someone who listens, who values your input, and who doesn't leave you constantly on the edge of your seat, waiting for a text that never comes. Real love shouldn't feel like a gut punch or a roller coaster of dread. Instead, you are looking for a connection that feels like a solid harbor, steady and calming amidst the storm of your own overthinking. If you are walking on eggshells just to keep the peace, it's not because you are broken, it's because the relationship is unhealthy. So stop chasing the ghosts of their validation and search for the person who actually brings peace, because you are worthy of a calm, secure partnership that cherishes you just as much as you cherish them.